I don't care what your excuses are. What I care about is the result.
I'm a man on a mission. I don't need no permission.
Unstoppable, my friend. How are you?
Hello and welcome to Kday 115. This episode is very special to me. I've followed Kerwin for 4 years and I don't think I've ever filmed such a powerful moment in the office. It's one of the greatest all time. This one's a long one, so grab some popcorn, but you're gonna enjoy it. Whether you're in sales or not, this one's powerful. Kerwin coaching the sales team.
Hash cookies, anyone?
Look at this. Here we go.
Thank you.
Abby's got a question about a guy who's an employee.
Who's got a question? Abby, he's an employee.
And she's not sure how Nissi would, how much value he would get out of it.
I got off the call. The sales bit isn't the problem.
Oh.
It's me knowing that what I have done is the correct thing for that
Gotcha.
person.
God, salesperson with a conscience. I love it. I guess it's hard to, without having seen the program, it's kind of hard to see because what you don't often see is the impacts that we have that go beyond just showing people how to make more money. Because this could be the very thing that, as a result of him wanting to do this, could change the way that he parents his kid, which can ultimately determine whether that child ends up, you know, doing something incredible or doing something evil.
Yeah.
I know it's an extreme example,
Yeah,
but to me, yeah, we're not just helping people to make money. We're saving relationships. We're saving people's health. But you've got to understand, we don't just grow businesses.
But this is the thing. Like I know that.
Yeah.
And I mean this with the most respect in the world, but there are lots of companies out there that tell you that they're selling something fantastic.
I get it. I get it. You've bought shit before that was overpromised and under-delivered.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not alone.
I don't know.
Do you know what you're dealing with?
What?
Your stuff. You're slowly but surely finding out the stuff that is preventing you from becoming better. And this is the cool part, because once you identify your stuff, you work on it, it doesn't become stuff anymore. So you now know what you need to work on. Speak to a couple of our clients. You know, if you see them come in, ask them, because any client who comes in, ask them, how is working with this organisation changed your life? And if you ask any of our clients that walk through that door, you'll get some kind of a story. Incredible story in most cases. Well, you're in the perfect space. You just haven't worked it out yet.
Yeah. Well, it's not that.
No, you're seeing signs.
I'm just. Yeah.
You're seeing signs, but there's a little part of your heart that's been wounded that's like, I'm going to keep this part protected until I'm completely sure that you're not going to hurt me, and then I'll open it up. I don't want
anyone else to be upset at me.
Well, we're all dealing with our own stuff. See, right now, whatever you're dealing with, it's your stuff. You know, and what the challenge that you're going to have is you're going to make, as salespeople, we make our stuff into our objections, and they become the stuff that fuel the objections of the clients. Does that make sense? Because your clients don't buy to where you're weak. Wherever you're weak, that's where the objections will be. Does that make sense? Wherever you're strong, there'll be no objections. You can't.
You'll buy the objections that you also have.
Well, it's just, you know, what an objection is just looking for a weak point in the conversation to get out. And if there's no weak point in the conversation, you can't get out.
Yeah.
You're in the right place. Cookie?
Yeah, I'll take the point.
For me, and I hope you guys don't take this the wrong way, whatever your objections you're getting tells me everything about you, not the product. Because what you'll probably find is some people get some objections, but some people don't. Have you noticed that?
100%.
Because I can give you ways to handle the objections, but I think something that would be more beneficial to you guys is going below the objection, because you get into the territory of your own psychology. And that's essentially what most of you guys are working against. You're not working against the product, you're not working against the market, you're working against your own psychology and the filters that that's putting upon you. And it's not until you can kind of pull that veil back and relinquish any attachment you have to any particular outcome that you guys are going to really be able to fully invest into where your power really lies. Is it where your power lies is not in your product, okay? It's not in our service, it's not, all those things are really helpful, but where do you think the real power lies?
In our confidence.
Yeah? Team, yeah. The intent. To me, it's got less to do with all that periphery stuff and more to look at the purpose of why we're here, what we do. You know, we're not here to make money. We're actually here to help people. And it's not until you fully embody and embrace that you really become powerful beyond the wildest dreams that you have. Because at the moment, what you guys are doing is you're attaching your identity to your ability to get a sale. And so whatever issues you have with your identity, they're going to be brought up in the objections that you're going to be getting. So all your objections are they're reflections of stuff that you're not working through in your own life. Okay, if you're dealing, and I see this all the time, if you're dealing with people that have issues around commitment, my first question I'd ask you is, how do you fare when it comes to committing to things? Like, are you someone that has commitment issues? You know, because what I've observed is people who have commitment issues often attract people who have commitment issues, and commitment issues, you know, can manifest in a whole range of ways. And one of the biggest ways is in people just deferring a decision. Well, let me think about it. I need to speak to my wife. What I want you guys to really understand, and to get at a fundamental level, we're not here to make money. We make money as a natural consequence of delivering enormous value. Okay, and the value that we deliver is in the area of helping people. And so it just so happens, whether people buy our stuff or not, we help people. And so that's a people don't have to buy our product for us to prove that what we do works. So the real question then is, well, why do I continue to get these objections? And I come back to, all your objections are signposts for the work that you need to do. And I can give you the, okay, here's the retort, and you can learn the retort, but if you're still creating that energy, you're still going to create that objection. It's not until you transcend the objection that you stop getting it. Does that make sense? Like the easiest way for me to describe this is, you know, whatever you resist will persist. And you've heard that before, it's a cliche statement. And what does it mean?
Whatever you try and stop will keep coming at you.
It's until you're willing to accept the lesson that's on offer, you're going to keep repeating the cycle of the lesson. And oftentimes it's the cycle of the lesson that's most painful. The lesson itself in most cases isn't painful. It's the cycle of the lesson. It's what you have to go through to get to the other side that determines the suffering and how you perceive it. And so for me, let's take the requirement for suffering out, because when you look at any form of suffering or any lesson that's required to be learned, where do you think the suffering comes from? Experiences, maybe. It's all perspective. Because what you deem to be, you know, suffering, to me is a fucking great day. I love stress, I love intensity, I love back to back, I love not having time to think. But to someone else, you might look at that day and go, that's a fuck day. Like, that to me is the day of living hell. To me, that's fucking Monday, you know, and I love to do what I do, but it's all a matter of perspective. And so right now, my goal here is not to give you guys a retort. I can give you all the retorts in the world, we've already got them. But I want you to think about the objections differently, because otherwise I'm just like every other fucking sales trainer out there. I'm just going, all right, let's just do some role playing, let's solve some objections. Whereas if you can get to the fundamental point where you no longer have any attachment to people's behaviors, all of a sudden now you're in an area of power that very few people get to. You see, when I sit down to sell someone, I legitimately, with every ounce of my being, I do not care what they do. I don't care if they buy, I don't care if they don't. All I care about doing is making sure that I do the very best that I can with the tools that I've got and the time that I'm there. And everything else is just a bonus on top. It's not that I don't get objections, but Matthias will tell you, literally it's like a fly on the windscreen. It's because it's not about the objections, it's about what's driving my responses. And what's driving my responses isn't a script. It's an intent. I know I can fucking help every single human being on the planet. And whether or not they can see that, that's not my issue, but I'm sure going to do what I can in the moments that I have that matter to make them see that. And 9 times out of 10, I'm telling you, it's not by telling them what to do. It's by asking fucking good questions continually that get them to their own answers where they realize what they've got to do. Anytime you're telling anyone, and again, I'm just going over rhetoric here, you're not selling anyone.
I know we had a conversation about this the other day.
Yep.
How do I fix that with myself? Because like you say, it doesn't matter what you're selling.
Yep.
The objections are always the fucking same.
Yep.
Whether it's time, it's all the fucking
all
same.
The same.
So that's, I want to get as much value out of this as I possibly can. So my question is, how do I...
Here's my assumption. My assumption is you're having challenges articulating the value that people are going to receive.
So how do I fix it? Because I've gone away...
Do you know how I know that? Because you're having challenges articulating the problems that you're having.
I can't speak.
No, you can. You speak very well and quite eloquently when you get out of your own way.
But so
right now, the challenge, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to give you the answer. I want to teach you how to think to get the answer for yourself. Okay, that's what a good parent will do. They'll never just tell their kid the answer. They'll teach the kid how to think so that they can come up with the answer themselves. So then the parent becomes redundant. You guys with me on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way that I become redundant right now is we talk about a concept called consciousness, awareness. And one of the most important things that we need to become conscious of when it comes to increasing performance, whether that be in a relationship or in your sales role, what's the first thing we need to be conscious of? What's the first place we need to turn the torch on and have a look at? Ourselves, but I'm looking at the framework of a psychology here. The framework of a psychology is built upon 4 layers. What's the first layer? It's a story. So whenever I'm trying to change any behavior, the first thing I look at is what am I telling myself when it comes to these stories. See, right now, you have such an ongoing dialogue with yourself. You can't tell between when you are dialoguing with yourself and when you're just having a little chat with yourself. I can see it in your head. Like you're having a great old time in there. You really are. but to the expense of a level of sanity.
Yeah.
Because the dialogue, and I can see it, the reason that you have trouble articulating on the outside is because you have trouble articulating the inside. Because you've got so many things bouncing around there. You're just trying to keep up with the vision of what you're trying to say. And sometimes that vision is moving so quickly it's a little bit blurred. Is that a fair assumption?
Yep.
So for me, in any scenario, the first thing I do is, okay, let's turn the lights on, clean up aisle 4, let's look at aisle 4. In this scenario, in this situation, what am I telling myself right now? And what I'm most interested in is, what's the subtext going on? Like, I'm not interested in what you're saying now, I'm interested in what you're thinking in this moment. I'm interested in, okay, what's your first retort? Oh, he doesn't understand. Oh, he doesn't really, like, what's your first retort? Like, that tells me everything I need to know and I don't need to know. It's for you to work out. Yeah. And then what you need to do is you need to look at the situation, whatever the issue is, and when it comes up, your first response needs to be, what is my first response? Because that's going to tell you what you legitimately believe. Because it doesn't matter what I tell you. It doesn't matter if I tell you Nissy's the best fucking training in the world. If you don't believe that, that isn't going to mean a jack of shit. And the way that you take any concept and you turn it into a belief is through, repetition, references, and experiences, right? I can give you 100 references of people 1,000 references of people done really well. I can give you everything. The only thing I can't give you right now is the experience, okay? And in your mind, that's a missing link. I'll say it again. In your mind, that's a missing link. So how do you, in reality, remove the missing link?
Okay. I don't fucking know.
Okay, so when you think about Nissy, what's your first thought? Like literally, nail it, Scarlett, what are your first thoughts?
So, business-wise, I could get into an argument with someone about how beneficial it is.
Personally?
Personally, I think, oh God, I couldn't justify that myself.
There you go.
Yeah.
That says everything I need to know. And I get it, I totally understand that, but that's why. And you expecting an experience to change that is a lot to ask of the world. Does that make sense? So my question to you is, who do you want to give the power to? Do you want to give the power to out there, experience land, or do you want to give the power to in here, which is I choose what I give power to. I choose what I believe, regardless of my experience or not. Because if you're waiting for a particular experience in order to believe something, then you miss the whole point of what magic really is. Like, to me, people say, I'll believe it when I see it. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It really doesn't. At the highest level of business, it does not work that way. I believe it first, and then as a natural consequence of me believing it, I start to see it appear in my environment. Not the answer that you wanted. First thing I want you to do is I want you to build a relationship with the moment so you can start listening to what's going on. So you can start in every moment. I want you to, and this goes for everyone. Like my question to all of you is, what is your relationship with the moment? And the way that you know your relationship with the moment is by your familiarity with it, with your level of intimacy with it. Like, is this moment right now something that's just fucking rolling out and there's a barrage of things that are rolling around in your head and you're just trying to keep up? Or with every single moment, do you have an intimate level? Do you have a level of intimacy whereby you are attuned to every single thought, every single emotion, every single change in vibe in that room to the point where you can observe it or tune into it and just see it for what it is? Now, I'm not saying you have to play there, but that's not a bad goal. Does that make sense? Yeah. But the first step that you start with is just becoming aware. Okay, first step, I become aware of my breath. Okay, if I can become aware of my breath, and I can become aware of the thoughts in my head. Yeah. Second thing, I want to become aware of the thoughts in my head, because when you can become aware of the thoughts in your head, now you know the script that you're really running. Doesn't matter what script I get you to say, I want to know the real script that's running, because it doesn't matter what words I give you, if the script underneath, if the operating system underneath is in defiance to it. It's like my example, you can give two people, the codes to wealth. One will go and make tens of millions of dollars, and the other one will fuck it up every way to Friday. The only difference between them is the 6 inches between their ears. The challenge for your objection is this is a lifelong one. Like, this is something that, and by the way, it's only you. The rest of these guys, they've got no issues at all. They're all completely fine. It's just you and I that are all fucked. No, but I mean that. Like, what you've got to understand, like, if you want to play at a level that very few people play at, then you've got to do the things that very few people will do. Any motherfucker can use a script. Any motherfucker can use a rebuttal. What it takes real genius is your ability not to need a script, not to need a rebuttal, and come from a state inside where you're just so committed to helping someone that no matter what comes up, you just naturally and instinctively overcome it because of your commitment to your intent. Does that make sense? Now, where you are now to where you want to be in that space, you think it's going to Nissy. It's got nothing to do with going to Nissy. That'll help. And you'll have this great story. You'll be like, see, Kerwin, I knew it as soon as I went to Nissi, finally something would click, and I'd be like, yeah, you're right, you're 100% right, and we'll both be right. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because imagine if you're not going to live, imagine if you live your whole life going, well, I'm not going to really invest myself into life until I find a partner. And let's say you get to, I don't know, 45, I'm just turned 45, and you're still single. Would you be thinking, wow, I've just wasted 20 odd years not living because I'm still waiting for something that hasn't shown up?
I am stupidly competitive, and at the minute I'm like, I can't be where I want to be. I want to be at the top of the fucking sales board all the time. No, you're gonna be redundant. That's my mentality.
Yep, good.
Like, that is genuinely my mentality. I want to be the best at everything.
Sorry, that's not gonna happen.
The first thing you need to do, you need to be able to get into your own skin and go, I would pay 10 grand for Nail and Scarlet, just for personal reasons. Let me give you a talk track on this whole justification of 5 grand thing, because to me, there's the psychology, and then there's like they've got the psychology, which is strategic, how you think, and then they've got tactical, which is how you move, right? And to me, those two things, they pair incredibly well, right? So to me, on the flip side, you might going, oh, I can't justify strategically in my mind, I can't justify the investment of 5 grand, and I can't prove that tactically. The only way that you can get to that point is if you don't do the process the right way. Look, honestly, I could fucking speak to 50 people right now at random on the street, and I could prove to every single one of them that they could justify an investment of 5 grand just by spending 20 minutes asking them questions. So to me, I think there's 2 parts to your equation. Number 1, yes, you've got to look at your talk track and what's going on. But number 2, you didn't ask enough questions to convince them, but ultimately convince you. Now, for me, playing this game, you shouldn't need to be convinced, but you do. Okay, and so by virtue of you needing to be convinced, you need to be aware of that and go, how do I use this to my advantage? Well, I can use this to my advantage because if it takes me a lot of stuff to get convinced, does it take you a lot of stuff? Does it take you a long time to be convinced?
It depends what it is. So.
Are you stubborn?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So that to me right there gives you empathy and understanding. Because you'll be dealing with people who are as stubborn as you are at the same time. Because the guy might say to you, well, it's 5 grand, I can't really justify it. And to me, it's like, I don't need a rebuttal. Because let me ask you a question. Let's role play. What determines your value in the business that you operate in right now?
Say that again.
What determines your value, i.e. your wage, in the business that you're working in right now? What determines how much I pay you?
The value that I put in.
Correct. So is it fair to say that the market rate that you have on your contract right now is arguably fair or otherwise value of that you can provide to this business?
So, curveball for you. I know I'm worth more than that.
Yep.
I know I can achieve more than that.
Yep.
The reason that I'm not pushing for that is because currently I live very comfortably. I have a really good work-life balance with my children. I have a really good relationship with my husband.
Yep.
I can go on frequent holidays.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
So it's not, money's not my driver.
Yep.
Family is my driver.
That's so I'm so glad you said that, because it just confirmed what I already knew. That this isn't about the money for you, is it?
No.
This is about time. This is about family.
Yeah.
This is about relationships. And so my question to you is, what value do you put on having more time with your family? If I can get you, let's just say hypothetically, I can increase your effectiveness professionally, but I can decrease your workload. Let's say if I can decrease your workload, let's call it 100 hours every quarter, okay, that you can now spend, that's 400 hours over the next 12 months. Do the math for me. Siri, what is 400 divided by 8?
400 divided by 8.
So that's an extra 50 days that I can get you with your kids doing whatever you want. How much would that be worth to you?
Okay. You're so fucking good at this.
I just have belief. I am so convinced about what I do.
It was just... So I couldn't understand...
See, right now, I'm learning a lot about you. I'm also seeing your relationship with failure. You don't have I think everyone here could probably build a better relationship with failure. What was it that you just did that highlighted the fact that you don't have a good relationship with failure? Again, awareness. What was it?
It was the stress.
It was the stress response. I literally just gave you the gold, and you're like, oh, he just gave me the answers. Damn it!
I should have known that. I should have known that beforehand.
No.
But the penny's just fucking dropped, and that's what I needed before. I was looking at it from the.
No, it's okay. I want to challenge the thing right now. See, the penny dropped, and you got angry. Like that was your first physiological response. The penny dropped, and you got angry.
Only because I could do better.
Fuck off with your excuses. I don't care what your excuses are. What I care about is the result. Your penny dropped, and you got mad. Now, this took me a year with one of our previous consultants to get through his head that every time you fail, your relationship with that moment will determine what happened next. If you do something wrong and you go, fucked, you will train yourself to avoid the fuck it moments where you're going to learn something. Where every time you make a mistake, you go, yes, awesome, what did I learn? You will literally train your brain every time you make a mistake or every time you do anything to see what benefit it's giving you.
I can see the benefit though.
I know you can.
That's why I'm.
You got an answer for everything.
I have got.
You do. That's why eventually you'll be very good at this.
I don't even need.
Eventually, no, you will be, because the part that you're missing, Abs, is like all this right now is deflection, because you just missed a golden opportunity, and it's still there. It's still on the table, waiting for you to take it. If you can remove all of the perception of how people are viewing this moment, viewing you, viewing the question, viewing the situation, just go, okay, what's the truth of this moment right now? Fuck, he just gave me gold. In the context of sales, I just delivered you a fucking 8 ball of gold. I really did. And what's your relationship with that? Because from here on in, that's going to determine what you do with everything. And every time Sam gives you some great feedback, rather than going, fuck, you should be going, yes. And going, what's my... Because if your relationship with failure is it's bad, you will avoid it, you'll hide from it, you won't show it to people, you'll hide your failures. Whereas if you realise what failures are, which is nothing more than a signpost, it's a gate, it's a doorway, it sits above the road, go, okay, skills, knowledge and experience here lacking are... It's like an advertisement. And most people take their advertisement and they're fucking putting it on the table so no one knows what they need. Does that make sense? You just learn what you need.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, don't thank me. Do something with it. Did anyone get value from that?
Yes.
Nothing.
Honestly, the biggest thing that I see is in Abs what you were kind of demonstrating for everyone, and thank you for being the role model, is I honestly believe the biggest challenge that most salespeople have when it comes to improving is their relationship with failure. Whether that failure is a rejection, whether that failure is whatever, critique, feedback, coaching. It's like, what is your relationship with all of those aspects? Because if you've got a bad relationship with feedback, every time I sit down with you, it'll be like, you'll be like consciously going, oh my God, yeah, I'm sitting with Kerwin, but you're subconsciously going, oh my God, he's going to tell me everything I've just done wrong. Is that an empowering? Like, you tell me. That's not exactly the most empowering place to come from. And for me, it's like, how do you take control of that? Well, first of all, you switch the lights on and you start taking responsibility for every single fucking thought you think. Every single fucking thought. Like, to the point where nothing comes in without, a level of scrutiny. And you might look at your life now and go, fuck, that's almost impossible. And yeah, maybe it feels that way, but it starts with just a little bit. You start observing a little bit. You start observing your breath, and then before you know it, you're not just observing your breath, you can actually observe sensation in your hands. And then before you know it, I can start to acknowledge and recognize my thoughts as they roll through. And honestly, that's probably one of the best things you guys could do, is just develop a better relationship with the moment. In this moment right now, what am I feeling? What's coming out for me? In this moment right now, am I making it about me or am I making it about them? In this moment right now, am I making it about my objections or their objections? But can you guys see how every objection unfolds from something going on inside you? Like, and again, the only real objection that you ever should be able to get, the only true objection, is someone going, dude, I'm fucking broke, I've got no money.
So it's not about the feedback, I'm happy to get feedback.
Let's dial in on what I've just told you. I have at no point suggested to you that you don't take feedback. Okay.
No, I'm being defensive.
No, you are. It's just your ego. But there's no need to be. You're wasting so much time being defensive. See, what I was highlighting was not your relationship with feedback. I was with the moment of when it lands. The penny dropped and I got mad. That told me everything about your current learning trajectory, which is you currently got a conflict in the area of learning, because every time someone gives you something good, you want to beat yourself up for doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not how you build a champion. You don't build a champion up by beating them down every time that you identify something's wrong.
And you're right in saying that but that's how I've pushed myself for so long. The fear and the pressure of failing is what makes me...
Put it this way, it's got you to where you are, it's not going to get you any further.
No. In the last couple of weeks, since starting this job, I think I've learned more about myself than I have in fucking years.
Not unusual.
Like, genuinely.
I promise you, like when I did one-on-one coaching, every time I'd coach a client, I'd be like, oh my God, because I'd be coaching them on my own stuff. Every time, it'd be my issues coming up through them. And I guarantee every person you sell to is nothing but a reflection of your own issues. Yeah. Some of them are great. You look at them and go, oh, fuck, he's reflecting some great stuff right now. Something like, no, that's not possible. There's no reflection here whatsoever. That's muddy water. So sometimes the muddiest reflections are the most accurate.
Yeah.
It just comes down to our humility. And I want to acknowledge the humility it took for you to go, I'm just being defensive now. And again, it's looking at your relationship, how much time do we spend defending behaviours that require no defence? You know, other than, that's interesting, thank you for that. Wow, that's really good. Versus, let me tell you the 5 minutes why I've been doing it the wrong way. Who's that fucking helping? You know what I mean? And I don't want to shut you down, because that's the last thing I want to do is take your confidence away and shut you down so you can't speak and can't use your voice. You got no issues using your voice. No. It's just using your voice with strategic intent.
Yeah.
But to me, and again, I look at your willingness to put yourself out there in front of everyone right now. You've literally put yourself on the platter more than anyone right now to go, fucking just tear me to shreds, pull me apart. But that's what's going to make you great if you continue in that fashion. In order to become the best at anything, it requires mad levels of humility. You have to be willing to just be torn. And again, it's not torn apart, but you need to be okay with being torn down and having zero emotional response to it. Like I'm talking, you know, pants down, freezing cold day, everyone's there, and you're just going, yeah, it's a cold day, so what? But do you get my point? That to me is where the real power comes from. And the humility that's required to become exceptional is not a characteristic that most people have naturally. Humility, especially in sales, is really, it's so almost controversial, because one of the things I've learned about being incredibly good at sales is it requires a level of ego, but also a level of humility, because you know, on the humility side we've got empathy, because on the ego side it often lacks empathy. And so it's this ever increasing balancing act of how do I balance strong ego, assertiveness, aggression, you know, certainty, a level of authority and power, with humility, which is that willingness to yield, that curious nature, that that all the things that ego aren't. And it's a really fine line. But I'll tell you right now, most salespeople get to a point where their ego won't let them get any further, because they either consciously or unconsciously stop taking the feedback or stop taking the criticism because they think they've made it. And the moment you think you've made it in sales, you're done. You have reached your peak. And it's the forever students that are constantly looking at every situation feedback. There's not one fucking presentation I don't do where I don't sit there and reflect and go, what could I have done better? What could I have done? And to me, again, that's what I was saying, the 1%ers. I want to just give you guys, you know, giving you the tactic, that's a 0.5%. Giving you the psychology, that's a 3%er. Because if I can give you lots of little 3%ers, all of a sudden it's not hard to get to 100% better. But my goal is, in the time that I have with you, is to give you as much 1%ers, 2%ers, 3%ers, 4s and 5s and 10s wherever possible. The 0.5%ers, you can get that in a fucking video, you know? You can get that from a script. To me, if I can get you to think differently, then the script becomes almost irrelevant. Yes. It's not about the script. The script is just a guide. It's just, yeah, you're the passenger. And that's a good way to think about it. If you are relying on the script, then you're the passenger. If you are relying on the script, you are the passenger of the vehicle. You're not driving it. The script is driving it. And again, I think that's also important to highlight there. One of the things that makes me as dangerous as what I am is I honestly don't fucking care if someone buys or not. Like, I legit have zero attachment. There have been so many times where my sales process has been literally, your decision-making process is fucked. Honestly, it's fucked. And I'm glad that there are people watching this, because I want you to feel the embarrassment right now of what this decision-making process is giving you. You should be embarrassed that your decision-making process is fucked, because it's why you are where you are. It's why your kids are where they are. It's why your wife is. Your whole life is based around how you make decisions. And you're defending them to me right now. That's fucking embarrassing. I say that with love. How many people can say that with love? The reason I say that with love is because I just want to help you. You know, the best part about this whole conversation, I'm meaning every fucking word I'm saying right now. So I can literally take any person apart, but I can do it with so much love that they'll be like, oh, that feels so good, do it again. But do you take my point? When your intent is pure, you can get away with murder. Okay, and you don't need to murder someone in order to change their life. You just need to be able to say the things that most people won't. And the reason most people won't say the things that they want is they're afraid of what the response is going to be. But if the response is win-win, there is no lose scenario. See, most people won't say certain things. Oh, if I say that, they won't like me. I don't fucking care. Oh, I can't say that. If I say that, they won't buy. I don't fucking care. So I'm like the most dangerous version of a salesperson because I will do and say anything because I have no attachment to what the other person does. But what I know categorically is that attracts a very particular type of customer, which in most cases is a good one, a really good one. On average, between the ages of 28 and 55, 87% chance they're going to have at least one or more kids, and they're a good client, very good client. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a man on a mission.
Was that helpful? Great question to finish off with. If you watched the entire thing, please do leave a comment with your thoughts. Much appreciate your attention, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for more episodes.
I